Hi guys, welcome back to the Female Fitness Podcast. I'm your host Danny, and I hope you're having a wonderful week and day whenever you listen to this. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is lovely to have you here. I really appreciate you, and I hope that you're enjoying the podcast whenever you start listening to it. So, in today's episode, I am going to talk about kind of debunking a common concern when it comes to resistance training or strength training. And this actually stems from conversations that I've had with women who've inquired to work with me and clients that I coach alongside that as well. And it's the concern that by lifting weights consistently or strength training, you're going to get bulky. So I'm going to work on tackling that in today's podcast. And even if I think the thing is with this topic, even if you know that factually, sometimes there can still be some fear there when it comes to yourself. And even if you know that it's told to you all over social media, in books, etc., that you're not going to get bulky if you lift weights. Even if that information is fed to you, sometimes it can be hard to believe. And there can still be this kind of like deep-rooted concern of, but what if I do put on too muscle? What if it does make me feel uncomfortable in my own skin? And that comes from a lot of different places. I think one of the things that makes it worse is that on social media, you will be exposed to some people who are very heavily muscular and they resistance train, they strength train, might not want to get there, but what you don't see is what they're doing behind the scenes of that to achieve that look. And sometimes, very often actually, that is achieved by taking performance enhancing drugs, as well as being extremely meticulous with nutrition, training, the way that you train, the style of training you engage in, and even sometimes force feeding food. So it's really important to take that into account when you are scrolling social media and looking at other people and what they look like. And like I've said before, it's so important not to base what you do on what other people do, because what one person's outcome isn't going to be the same as the next person's for a whole host of different reasons. So I'm going to give you a few things to think about in today's podcast that will hopefully remove some of the fear around lifting weights consistently for you, because it is something that is so good for you, your quality of life, your health and function, not just in this moment, but as you go through the rest of your life, as you age alongside that. And so I want to encourage as many people to consistently resistance train as possible. Even if you have other goals like I do, I love running, I love general fitness. That is really important to me. But I also want to be strong and capable and function well. And also, I care about my body composition. So, resistance training is a really important part of my training schedule, even though it isn't the only thing that I do. And it's really important to recognize that actually doing lots of different types of training and exercise is often the best thing that we can do for our health, for our quality of life, and also for our ability to succeed with our goals alongside that. So, the first point I'm going to discuss is that building muscle is really, really hard. And I think that sometimes when you're scrolling social media, it can make it seem like it's easy. It can make it seem like actually, all you have to do is go to the gym a few times a week and eat enough protein and the muscle will fly on, when the reality is it's far from the case. It takes a long time and it takes a lot of conscious effort alongside that. What you will see is quicker progress with muscle growth when you initially introduce resistance training, when you're new to it, or even actually when you reintroduce it after a break. So, say you get ill, you get injured, or you go on holiday, you take a break from resistance training. If that break is extended and you feel like you've, lost some fullness in response to that, you will regain that fullness very quickly as a result of getting back into resistance training. So when it's kind of novel, when it's new, that is an occasion where you will see quick muscle growth. It's also often referred to as newbie gains when people are new to structured resistance training, and they respond really quickly. But what happens is that after an initial period of time where muscle growth is quite quick, where you see those newbie gains, progress then slows down and becomes something that you have to really, really, really fight for. And that applies to both your progress in the gym when it comes to your lifts, and it also applies to progress with muscle tissue development and other areas as well. And something that you have to consider if you want to see muscle growth is that you ideally, after that initial period of newbie gains, after you've, initially just got into your resistance training groove, you've seen some muscle growth, you're having to really fight for it. When you're in that phase, you do have to, ideally, if you want to see decent, relatively, you know, noticeable progress with muscle growth, you need to be consistently eating enough energy to support your requirements. And actually, if we want to see maximal muscle growth, if we really want to maximize that, so these people that you see on social media that are jacked, they're carrying a lot of muscle tissue, they will have gone through extended periods of time in a calorie surplus, what they often refer to as bulking phases or improvement season phases or off-season phases, for example. That's where they'll gain the muscle tissue. They're spending months and months and months on end eating in a calorie surplus. And what that means is that they're consuming more energy than they're expending, not just on the odd occasion, but every single day. They're overfeeding. And often, when they're at the end of that overfeeding phase, they're at the point where they're sick of food, they're like actively having to force feed themselves almost. And most of you listening to this won't go through those phases. You won't get to that point, and so you won't see as much muscle growth as these people who do go through these phases, such as bodybuilders that you might see on social media. And being intentional with getting enough protein in is also something that you have to think about if you want to see muscle growth alongside the rep ranges that you're training in and the style of training that you're doing. So we have to think about hypertrophy rep ranges if we want to see maximal progress with muscle tissue development. And often, those of you listening to this will be working across lots of different rep ranges. You might be doing some strength work, for example, as well as some hypertrophy work. And that's you're not solely dedicating your training to hypertrophy, so you're not going to look the same as those who do. If you see someone on social media carrying a lot of muscle, if they are jacked, they will have been doing all of these things consistently, not just for months, but for years. They've not gained the muscle tissue that they carry unintentionally after incorporating resistance training a couple of times a week, for example, or after a short period of intentionally training for muscle growth. If you listening to this trained for muscle growth intentionally for a period of time, even say 6 months, you still probably wouldn't look, well, very likely wouldn't look the same as a lot of these people you see on social media that are absolutely jacked. It takes a lot longer than that. So even if you were to do a specific muscle building phase, you are still not going to look what you probably deem as bulky. So it's really, really important to bear that in mind. My second point is that a lot of people that you see on social media who do look jacked, who are carrying an absolute ton of muscle, are on performance enhancing drugs. It is so much more common than you realize. And I know that from being in the coaching industry and from also being in the bodybuilding world myself. So I have experience being amongst the athletes and some influencers who used to take performance enhancing drugs. And also, as a coach, I've coached people who have come to me who have been on them in the past as well. No, I don't coach anyone who does take performance enhancing drugs, for the record. But I have come across clients who have come to me after having taken them in the past. And so it will have influenced how they have looked at that time, for the record. That was mostly in my time when I was coaching bodybuilders, which I don't coach people to compete anymore. So that's something to take into account. But my point is, it is so much more common than you realize. And it's really important to take that into account when you're scrolling social media so that one, you can set your expectations more realistically, and two, you don't get discouraged if you are one of these people who doesn't want to gain an absolute ton of muscle, if that would make you personally feel uncomfortable. It's helpful because you can bear that in mind and recognize that that's not going to happen as a result of you resistance training consistently, prioritizing muscle growth without taking these performance enhancing drugs. It does change things quite a lot, especially as a woman. So it's really, really important to take that into account. My next point is that training frequency influences hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is muscle growth. The likelihood is that the people you deem as extremely muscular, more muscular than you might like to be, are training very frequently in a way that is optimal for muscle growth every single session. And that's probably not what you're going to be doing. You're probably not going to be exclusively training for hypertrophy and nothing else. And I'd actually recommend having goals outside of muscle growth, even if you care about muscle growth, as someone who also cares about your health, your function, and your quality of life. Having goals outside of that is so good for you. It's so healthy. It will make your training so much more enjoyable. It will make the process of achieving your goals so much more enjoyable and more rewarding and likely more successful. But getting absolutely jacked often requires placing your full focus on muscle gain. And so if your full focus is not on muscle gain, you're probably not going to get absolutely jacked. And that actually can be really reassuring for those of you who are listening to this podcast. Most of you, I hope, are training for reasons outside of hypertrophy, such as for your longevity, for your health, function, reducing your likelihood of getting into a position where you can no longer support yourself when you're older, helping you feel strong and capable and powerful and badass. Like training muscle, gaining muscle is a really good thing for your health, function, and body composition. It will result in you achieving the toned look that a lot of you are looking for. I know that a lot of people want to look what they might describe as toned. That is a very common thing for a lot of women who listen to this podcast. But to achieve that look, you can't just lose body fat, you have to have muscle tissue as well. And it's really important to bear that in mind, as well as resistance training being really good for your overall health, function, and all of that good stuff. I understand that you might not want to carry tons of muscle tissue, and that's okay. The likelihood is that your training frequency, your program, your lifestyle, your nutrition habits are not going to result in that happening. It will have a positive effect. It will help you achieve your body composition goals, to train consistently, to prioritize your nutrition, to get enough protein in, to eat in a way that supports your health. Like that will literally transform your life. You will feel more confident and comfortable in your own skin. You will make body composition progress. You will perform better mentally and physically. And it would genuinely change the trajectory of your life. But it probably won't result in you being carrying an uncomfortable amount of muscle tissue. So remember that the people that you see on social media are a lot of the time the people that you look at and you think, oh gosh, I wouldn't want to look quite that muscular. They want to look that muscular. They are really fighting for it. They're trying for it. They're at the other end of the spectrum when it comes to a lot of factors surrounding drugs, training, and nutrition to you. And you introducing a moderate amount of resistance training alongside showing up for yourself with health supporting behaviors is not going to result in the same outcome as what they have achieved. So that's what I want you to bear in mind. They are like really working for that. They want that muscle. They love that. You, if you don't love that, you won't get there. So that's what I want to get across to you. And hopefully that encourages you to get into consistent resistance training, to enjoy it, to set goals outside of that as well, and to make positive lifestyle changes to improve your health and quality of life, because that's what I want to encourage every single one of you to do. And if you are interested in really mastering the key movements that you will be doing throughout your health and fitness journey, two of the key movements, the squat and hip hinge, then I'm running a lifting workshop in Sheffield and I would absolutely love to have you there. It is capped at 8 people because I want a small group so that I can give everyone one-to-one attention. And my goal is to make sure that you walk away much more confident with your squat, your Romanian deadlift, and your conventional deadlift and variations of those exercises. I want you to go away knowing which variation is right for you right now and feel confident executing that in the gym and have progressions from that so that you can progress those movements moving forwards. I also want to provide you with an opportunity for in-person connection because I think most of us don't get enough these days. I want to see you in person. I want to chat to you. I want to be able to help you, to coach you, to support you. And I also want you to connect with the other people at the workshop. Like this, like I said, it's capped at 8 people so that I can give everyone one-to-one attention. It's not just a large group thing. And it is at a gym called Townsend Strength in Sheffield, which is Kelham Island area. I'll put the postcode and the details in the description below if you are interested. But with there only being 8 tickets, if you're interested, sign up now, don't sleep on it because it will get full and it's only £15 per ticket. So don't sleep on it if you're interested. I'd love to have you there. I want to meet as many of you as possible. Hopefully there'll be more events in the future, but it's hard to organize these things and it's hard to get the facility and all of that stuff. So if you're interested, get involved in this one. Don't wait for another because they're not going to be incredibly frequent at the moment. I'll try my best to do what I can, but I can't promise anything. So get on this opportunity if you're interested, and I will see a lovely group of you there. If any of you are interested in coaching, I do have online one-to-one coaching space available at the moment as well. So if you want to achieve your goals whilst improving your health and quality of life, I'm the coach for you. Please don't hesitate to drop me a message on Instagram. Just message me, let me know a little bit about you and your goals, and then I'll send over all of the coaching information that you'll need and your next steps to getting started or booking in a free consultation call with me, and we'll go from there. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast. I hope it encourages you to enjoy your resistance training, and I will see you in the next one.